think we've just about done it. I think every New Year's resolutioner, be their goal, be their mission in the moment, absolute. If they have not made it happen, well, I think it's over, right? I think we can call it. I think you're trying to cut weight to make it to 180, and you're 220. It's not going to happen, And I think that people come to that conclusion far too soon and just give up, because a plan doesn't have to go perfectly perfect right from the freaking get-go. That's the whole reason that you made a plan, was because it's going to be tricky and you couldn't just wing it. And, you're going to run into potentially a little bit of, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Well, just challenge. There's no better way to put it than challenge. So now we're on the pendulum has swung in its complete opposite direction, and it's about to come back, right? Only a few more months. So what is it? Today's the 23rd. September 23rd, what is that? So the 9th month. So 60, 30 months. I don't know. Just about 75% of the way there, right? The year is over. It has happened for the most part. A lot of things that people said they were going to do to kind of add up to this year either got done or they didn't. And honestly, I think it's a little bit of a boxed in mentality to even have to describe time like that, where it's like to describe a week as though you can't get anything done on Saturday and Sunday, like those are the chill days, and that all the other time of the week is like for actually doing stuff. I just don't like the idea of it, but it's pretty legit. We can kind of add up our years with some pretty substantial events, right? Whatever you did this year. So I guess all I'm trying to say is just sort of pointing that out, because hopefully this is just a little bit of something that we get to watch happen for them, right? For some, whereas we know that we're getting after it. We know that we have things, lifestyle, working out, goal-wise, that we're getting after that you might not notice, right? You might not start something today. Or you might start something today and actually only have it come to fruition in like 4 months, or 5 months, depending on what kind of thing you were planning. And that's the trickiest part, right? That's the part that people got trouble with. I'd love to see myself jacked. Can I really see myself going to the gym, working out right now? I don't know. I'd love to see myself set this thing up, but I don't know if I should really do it. I don't know if I should. It's classic, right? And it's red tail running around. But that's kind of the hidden difficulty, which highlights its value. So if you go after something and nobody else is really doing what you're doing, well, then guess what? It's almost an indicator that you should do it. Like in social media, in working out, in everything, average is average, right? And I mean, what literally is an average? It's just a culmination of what everyone else is doing, is capable of, is willing to do. So, I mean, really, if you look around and you're doing the exact same thing as as character A and B and C and D, and yet somehow you want to be different, somehow you expect a different result, well, then it's just not going to happen. And I've been seeing this a little bit more often now. I think COVID times started a massive influx of interest into fitness in general. I'm talking bodybuilding, calisthenics, everything. I mean, even the looks maxing in a way is kind of dieting related, because we want to be big and lean. I don't think they care as much about muscle per se, but their whole thing is dieting and everything else. So it's huge, right? Everybody had their eyes on fitness, and I think it's kind of started to pull itself back. I think the bubble of fitness is beginning to pop a little bit, because a lot of people are kind of they're turning heel and starting to retreat. They might have started to go after it, but what makes I mean, let's just narrow it down to a social media side, and that's not even the point. The point isn't the social media value of working out, but let's just use these guys as an example. You know, do you think Larry Wheels trains like a beast, or on average has trained like a beast for what, 15, 20 years? Not 20, he's not that old, but 15 years minimum. Yeah, I think so. Right? Do you think that any character who you see on your phone isn't really getting after it on the regular? Now, there are some that are, I think, probably don't. But for the most part, at least guys who are really on the serious gym side of things, where the gym is really their primary focus, well, yeah, guess what? They've been grinding for quite a freaking while. And for them, it hasn't even really been a grind, because they love it and they just want to do it anyway. You know, I guess I'll never know exactly, because I've gotten to bring you guys with me every workout for like basically the last 3 years on end. So, you know, it raises the question: would I do these workouts exactly as I have been if no one else watched them? And that's something I've kind of hemmed and hawed about a little bit. Like, I'm not exactly sure, because I want my motivations to be as simple as possible, in that I want to get this shit done. I want the results I'm aiming for, and that's the end of it. You know, I don't want anything else to come into play. And for the most part, I do think that, well, that's not true. I definitely wouldn't be going to the private gym like this if there was no social media involved. But would I still be killing it? I can almost guarantee it, you know? And that's where I think some guys are kind of missing the point a little bit right now. So this is just kind of a generalized message to whoever, you know. So right, and I'm taking my Sam workout bodybuilder hat off, and I'm putting my Sam social media hat on, right? Because I mean, if you're working out, if you want working out to be your thing, and you want to really get into it and be able to get more out of it than just gains, and you want to be able to show it off like that and, you know, post about it, well, then you're looking at it from a completely different situation, right? I look at my workouts as though I'm going to kill them anyway, and I get to record them and post them and share them, and, you know, get to bring more just hype and energy to the space. That's kind of my motivation. But I mean, if you start to get into a numbers game, it's really going to suck, you know? So if you're working out like a beast and you're kind of like, I wonder if I should start posting on whatever. I wonder if I should record some workouts. You know, don't let the recording get in the way of the workout, of course. You know, don't be too cheesy. But it's the same as everything, you know? If you're trying to grow with social media, if you're trying to grow physically your body, if you're trying to start a business, if you're trying to start whatever, well, it's not just going to be awesome day one. I mean, even like, imagine even business side, right? Let's say that somebody had a badass business idea, they're about to start it, they're about to get after it. Well, guess what, man? You're not even going to make jack for however long, because you got to set this thing up, you got to get all this stuff in place, you got to, you know, get things ready, and then you got to wait for everything to be ready, and then you start things. And even then, it's just kind of this constant uphill battle, you know? So it's something where you got to be cool with that, and you got to understand that's just a step in the process, you know? So if, you know, let's say you're only, I mean, I can distinctly remember the first time I posted any of this stuff, and I said, holy shit, this one got 500 likes. Nice. Like, it was freaking cool for me, you know? You kind of chasing that was my like PR at the time for like a silly little TikTok edit, you know? But it's, I guess what I'm trying to say is, across everything, you know, the flashy stuff that's at the top of the pyramid will always be supported by boring stuff at the bottom, right? And the only way that excuse me, the only way that flashy stuff at the top is going to be stable, is actually going to be cool looking, is if you've got enough of that support system on the bottom, you know? So when it comes to working out, you're not going to have the results of a 5-year dude if you've only been working out for 3 months. And that's not a problem. That's not a negative. It's not a bug. It's a feature. That should just be more of a motivation for you to say, all right, man, I'm going to keep doing this because I like it, but I'm excited to see what I'm going to look like 3 years in, 5 years in. You know, I think now I'm a little bit past 7 years in. I wonder what I'm going to be looking like as a 10-year deep guy, as a 15-year deep guy, you know? Am I going to keep getting bigger? Is that what my plan is? Or am I going to dial it down and end up being a little bit leaner for a while? You know, there's there's no telling exactly what the future is going to hold, right? But I can say this: if you don't go for it, even if you're not totally sure it's going to work out, you can't guarantee that it's going to end up in like a total successful W or whatever. Well, if you don't go for it, guess what? You're going to regret it. I can guarantee you will regret it. We've all seen these videos where guys do interviews of people on their deathbeds, or not deathbeds, but they're older. These guys are 70, 80, whatever. What's their biggest regrets, right? It's the things that they didn't do. It's the things that they pretty much had the capability of. They had the potential to go for it. They had the potential to ask this person this, or to start this, or to say this, or to go off, and then something held them back. Something held them down, and they said, I don't know. Right? You get this little infectious thought in your mind. I don't know if it's going to work out. What are they going to say? What am I going to do? And it's a very safe play to back off and do nothing, right? Or if you've got a choice of situations, it's very safe to say, that seems kind of hard. I don't know if I can do it. It's not good. I don't think there has been anything cool done by anyone where it was guaranteed the 100% safest play that they could do. Would you watch a movie about a heist or about anything if it was just very calmly planned and there was no suspense, and then like there's no tripwire, there's no nothing? Like every badass movie, whenever there's a plan involved, there's at least a few points in the plan where they say, look, we can do this, this guy knows everything about this, and I'm the best this. And if we're lucky, then right? Sometimes there's a little bit of luck involved. And it's not as though you're wishing upon it. Just to go for it, you're almost creating your own, because you're giving yourself this need where it's like, all right, this shit's got to work out. I've got no other choice but to make it work out. I already took my foot off the ledge. I'm both feet in midair. So whether you take something from that or not, or if you can relate that to a situation that you're in right now, look, let's say you're not totally sure. Shit, man. It's that clip of the guy from Moon Knight. When you don't know if you should jump, that's when you should, right? And I don't know the exact circumstance of that quote. Maybe it doesn't actually make sense here, but that's what I'm getting at. So I am sure of this. I am sure I'm going to go thrash my hamstrings with a little bit of quad involved. Maybe not so heavy as my last quad day, but I guess that's to be determined. That's something I'll actually get to find out. Hamstrings first, quads second. A little bit of calves involved, and pose down and get out of there. So I think nothing else to say, but let's freaking get started. All right, very hard to start wrong in this little corner. And it's nice, it's safe. I'm like, I've got my little hut, I got my little spot. I'm not wide out in the open, subject to predators, where I can just get my hamstrings done and chill. This whole area is going to get a bit of a redesign either in a few days or like next month, one or the other. But that's not going to change how the leg days actually look. So hams first. This stack goes up to 150. 110 is honestly kind of pushing it. Like, this is a heavy ass stack. Like, you ever do at Planet Fitness, how they have that pull down where it has two individual cables and you can basically do the stack with one arm? Yeah, this is the opposite of that. This is where it's extra heavy. Usually I don't even feel like I'm going too wild when I'm doing the stack. Nah, this is a good one. Out of everything with the stack loaded stuff, that's where, and I can say this reasonably unbiased, the Arsenal stuff is almost, as far as I've seen, it's unmatched with heft of stacks, which is something I've been asking for forever. I want to see a 500-pound stack. Is it efficient? Is it actually an effective use of weight? No, but that's the point. It'd be cool. Like, imagine seeing this go and steel all the way up to the ceiling. Obviously that'd be too much, but like I want machines where even a Brian Shaw says, this is a big stack. But it's, the average consumer buying a bunch of Life Fitness stuff at a Planet Fitness, they don't need that much. But now let's pick a good song, and then These will have a little bit of a pause at the top, but not much. Like, I'll hold it as long as I can when I'm strong, but, you know, since I'm not full of carbs, I can tell my strength endurance is a little down. So this weight could be a 25 rep set when I'm lean, or no, when I'm bulked. When I'm lean, it could cut all the way down to 15 or 10. But no matter what, I'm still gonna go wild. Okay, one more of those. I think I can do the same weight for one more, but I'm gonna have to drop it for the next one. Yeah. Okay, that's too heavy. Let's drop it to 90 instead of 110. Do one more and then switch to something. I'm not sure exactly what. I got a few choices though. Okay. Okay. That's enough of those. That one was a little too heavy, but in terms of activation, still solid. So I'll just take that into account. So for the next move, and I'm like a seated curl or whatever, maybe go a little lighter. But let me jump over there and see. Okay, I lied. Even though those laying curls were pretty heavy, and normally I'm gonna say do a heavy one for every light one, or a light one for every heavy one. But how this feels, let's do a heavy nasty one. So full stack. I'm not gonna add these extra 10 though, so I'm a little bit restrained. Just kind of go nuts. You know, this set is not so much about execution. Obviously, I want to bring my legs all the way down as low as they go, get a good squeeze, and go back to the top without too much swinging. But that's where like mental intent ends and just sheer brute force physicality begins, right? So that's where I don't want to even, I'm not thinking reps in reserve. I'm not thinking perceived exertion. I'm thinking go crazy until my hamstrings won't physically move. And I think that's a good approach. That's a solid approach for a set. I think if I physically thought, okay, I've got 3 reps in reserve, or I got 4 reps in reserve, that sucks. And the fact that I don't think it's cool means it won't motivate me. So if that really does get you amped, well then do that. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying for me, I don't resonate with it. You know, you're not going to eat food that you don't like the taste of, right? So it's a preference thing, of course. Okay, that's a little too heavy. Let's drop it to a 200 instead. one more heavy one. So I'm gonna do a little meet in the middle, 250. So not 300, not 200, right smack dab in the middle. So as long as I go nuts, this will be good. This will be probably enough. And then I can move on and get quads started. I'll do fancy reps for these. You'll see what I mean. All right. All right, let's do some leg extensions now. That's enough for hams. 6, that's about right. All right, the leg extension, whilst not hated, I feel doesn't get the love it deserves, right? Honestly, it's kind of, I think it's already put in a bad position because it's legs, right? I think when we think gym equipment, when we think Arnold doing cable flies, we think the pec deck, we think bench, we think curls, we think lat pull downs for the most part. Unless you're a diehard Tom Platz fan, you're not thinking leg extensions, And I can understand why that's the case, but if you come to that conclusion and the leg extension does kind of get underhyped, and then you don't bring it extra on your own, well, then what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? But I'm almost always going to start with some leg extension, if not as, working sets simply to start the lift off, because there's nothing I'd rather warm my quads up with. I'm not going to do body weight squats to get my quads warm. I'm going to do light leg extensions, really squeeze, burn, kind of get everything activated. But I'm going to start a little bit differently. Normally I go heavy single leg, 5 reps on one side, 5 in the other, 5 in the other, 5 in the other, back and forth like that, which I like. Or I'll just do a really heavy set, kind of nasty. So I think what I want to do today is some combination of the middle. So 175, a little bit more than half the stack, but not substantially more. And with double leg, that's very feasible for anybody. So I'm going to do these a little quicker, but with extra crazy emphasis on the squeeze on top. So even though they are going to be quick reps, they're not mindless. At the top of every rep, I want to feel like I'm pulling my knee or my shin beyond its natural range of motion with how hard I'm trying to flex my quads at the top. And that's a little bit of a strength, like a strength curve that doesn't get brought up, because let's say you put like a tension meter on a muscle fibular level deep into my quads, right? In a squat, it's going to read crazy tension measures at the bottom of the hole. And as I stand up to the top, well, then they're going to relax. There's no tension on your quads when you're standing up with a squat bar, at least none that's like super substantial. Whereas on a leg extension, the top is where you're squeezing the hardest. Plus, once you get to the top of the range of motion, well, physically you're not going to bend anymore. Your leg has no more give. So if you flex extra hard, well, then now you're going from like this much tension or this much, feeling of flexing to do the rep, and then you can spike it at the top of every rep. It's like you're doing dumbbell curls or preachers, and you get to the top, you can no longer move, like you've run into the end of the range of motion, and then giving it a little extra. So even though you didn't have more motion, you still had more tension, And that's where the burning effect kind of comes into play here. So I don't have to do the stack. I can do lighter weight. And right now, if I try the stack anyway, it would hurt my knees because they're not all the way warm yet. But no more talking about it. Let's just freaking make it happen. I'm watching a Matrix edit for this one. One or two more like that, and then I'll move on to a different version. Okay. All right. Holy crap. Let's go nuts here. So 7.5 plates. 8 would be crazy, but 7 on one side and 8 on the other, that's about right. Oh, let's drop it to 7. I feel like not a ton of people will even do leg press. Nevertheless, leg extensions as the superset before them. So honestly, if this is awesome, I think this has the potential to be it. I'm not gonna go into it with that mentality. Obviously, I'm still gonna bring it, whether I'm doing 5 more sets or 0. But this is good. This is good. Because honestly, that's not that much weight. Like a heavy leg press for me is I can do 6 reps in a row. And then for the last 4, I kind of have to take a breath and pause and go. And then do the last 4 almost like individually. That's usually my heaviest set. Whereas this is 10 in a freaking row. Rest another however many in a row. And I just took a plate off. So now let's just burn out with leg extensions. Or I guess the proper term would be pre-exhaust with leg extensions. And then really just go as nuts as possible over there. Maybe even jump off and do some sissy squats to really finish it off. But let's do the first 2 portions first. You know, let's focus on breakfast before we get to lunch. Okay.
I think we're good there. Oh. All right, so that was nothing too crazy. Only 11. Was that even 11? Or was that 10? Either way, not insane volume. Not the wildest, overall workload. But in terms of like essentially the set to resulting pump ratio, I'm feeling pretty good. So, yeah, I'm already starting to notice the leanness factor coming into play, at least just a touch quad-wise, right? Now, my quads are no larger. If anything, they're actually smaller than they were just about a month ago. They've now shrunk down. They're no longer completely full of carbs and glycogen. But the ratio, even just from a little bit of dieting, from like glutes to actual full thickness of quad hamstring, we're getting somewhere, right? The more pronounced that line in the back can be, the better. That's really what I'm working for. But yeah, even pumped up, that's a pretty noticeable separation from all three heads of the quad. I'm talking medial, outer, inner. Like nothing crazy, nothing show ready. But for only a month in and not even really feeling hungry, we're getting there. So all that detail, all that extra everything, it's just being hidden away by a thin, less than quarter-inch layer of body fat, obviously evenly spread across my whole quad. But, once all that kind of takes its place and gets out of there, well, every one of these little cuts and everything will begin to look much, well, not even freakier. Let's not say freaky, but much wilder, much cooler, and just simply be more apparent. Now, for me, I've got a little bit of an imbalance quad-wise, where my left quad is blessed with some feathering. The left quad's blessed with some striations. Pumped, not the most noticeable right now, but as I get leaner, I've got a pretty good set of feathers going across this quad. And the meaning of feathering, it's just like this kind of cross striation. I get a little going up the teardrop on both sides as well, but nothing crazy, like nothing Platz level. And in a way, I think it's a little genetic. Some guys have a more full and like just big, plump look to their muscles. And then when some guys cut down, sure, they might not be as big, but this is where we get into, we're talking about, what's the word? Texture and muscle maturity, right? That's where we're talking hardness, grain, just freaking striations at the wazoo. And what I'm really excited for, obviously straight quads, whoopee. I want to see my chest get freaking nuts to the point where even unpumped, just hitting a little most muscular crab shot or even like one of these, just gets fibers crawling across them. Ones that you didn't even know were there. And you don't have to be huge to reveal them. You don't have to be the biggest freaking dude. So that's where, look, like I was talking about in the car, doing things not everyone else is doing. I think common consensus, wintertime, winter bulk. I played into that a little bit as well. Wintertime, winter lock-in. Start eating. You're wearing long sleeves and pants. No one can tell if you're getting a little bit softer. So it's not like it's a bad logic. It does make sense. But I'm not going to conform to that if that's not what my goal is at the moment. So for me, we're cutting into winter, right? As the snow starts to come down, the weather gets a little sharper. Well, guess what? I will get just as sharp. And if anything, the fact that the air is going to be colder outside, every time you're outside breathing in cold air, you're cooling your body down, making you burn more energy to heat it back up. Shit, man, if anything, colder climate, that's when you should be cutting down. That's just, we're getting into bro science logic here. But either way, quads are certainly stimulated, so my goal has been achieved. And that is to maintain size and strength as I get leaner. Because as long as I get a crazy-ass lift, not even that crazy. I don't even have to do I never do, but I don't have to do 6 plates for 8 on squat. I don't have to do a 40 plate leg press like a Ronnie Coleman. And I couldn't even do that. It would instantly kill me if I had no safeties. It would be like a hydraulic press. But that's where I feel a little imposterish when it comes to dieting, because for me, I like the training. I want the lift to be the crazy hard part where I go, I freaking dig deep and really bring it. And I still do that. But when I'm dieting, the lifts just come back in their intensity. It's I don't feel like a sculptor, but it's a good analogy. And off season is when you got a big slab of marble and I'm holding a freaking sledge. I'm talking really swinging it. And dieting down, the brunt work has been done. And then you don't need a freaking sledge, man. You need a little pinion and your chisel, and you're doing detail work. To maintain is much easier than to gain. But the difficulty has just transferred, right? The amount of energy and effort I have to put in the gym to grow in an off season, assuming I've got a good diet, which I don't really have a problem bulking up. So that's not a ton of challenge for me. When I'm dieting down, now the effort gets moved from the workout to outside of the gym, to making sure I'm on it, to making sure I don't go over and I don't overeat or anything. And it's, I don't know, it's like the dieting is more paperwork and the working out is when you're out in the field being nuts for whatever job that entails, so it's, or it's like you're doing a freaking spec ops mission. As cool as, and this is just an imagination, I don't know, but from what I would imagine, as much door busting, enemy whooping, airstrike calling, there's probably about 1,000 times more hours of paperwork that goes into it. And for me, that's the diet. That's the dieting side of things. That's where, eat your bowl of 50 grams of protein and, 25 grams of carbs with a little bit of sugar-free barbecue sauce and call it a day. And for some, that's like super hard. So the difficulty is just, it's earned when you get cut up, is all I'm trying to say. But I'm certainly beginning to get lean. Not insanely noticeably. It's a slow thing. I'm talking month to month, minor changes. But fast forward end of October. Definitely fast forward end of November. Let's just say I've got a one-way ticket to Vane City with, what's the word? With no layovers. But I think nothing else to say. Let's get in the car, man. We are done.
All right. And now I get to drive home with that, well, let's say that sensation that we should all be pretty aware of, where you just feel a little tighter in the cockpit of your car because your legs are a little extra swollen, you're a little stiffer, they're just not moving. But one thing I'm kind of curious about, do you guys have any, you specifically, do you have a karma story? Do you have something where, somebody did some shit to you, you watch some shit go down, or whatever, and you watch the universe swing that negative energy like a goddamn boomerang back twofold? I don't think I haven't really seen it. I don't have a story. I don't have a specific instance where I saw that happened. But I think the same goes the other way. I'm not one to say that I'm going to lay down in bed and manifest that I had a really good workout, or that I'm going to have a good workout tomorrow, or that good things are going to come my way, or whatever. That's a little bit far-fetched. But if I'm thinking about it, I like the idea that you're going to essentially live life through a filter. So follow me here. And that filter can be whatever, because let's say a bunch of crazy shit goes on in your day, equal amount good and bad, right? For every time that you threw your water bottle into the trash can and it went straight in, to, every time you get your pocket stuck in the doorknob and then subsequently drop your keys, and when you get hit with 3 little things like that at once, and then you're just you're like what the frick, mind my language. So, nothing insane, but for every good thing, there's an equally bad thing, So your day was net neutral. Nothing crazy happened, nothing awesome happened. What did you choose to remember? Right? Let's do a hypothetical. What did you choose to remember? That every light was green, or that somebody honked at you? Right? So I guess all I'm trying to say is, if you can kind of go about things where you spin it positive, and it's sometimes it might take a little bit of delusion or a little bit of like stretch in your mind to get into. But with all of this, like when I talk about getting into a good mental headspace, it bleeds into all the time, but I'm only saying it about the workout, and then it just happens to coincide with everything else too. So when I'm talking workout wise, well, if let's say you're at a gym and all 3 leg extensions are taken, and you wanted to do leg extensions that day, that moment, that's a classic situation, right? The machine you want is taken. What the hell are you gonna do? Right, do you just pivot? Do you instantly pivot, move on, do something else? Don't strut, or don't strut. I was gonna say don't fret and don't stress at the same time. Don't strut about it. Well, yeah, you could either let that throw you off your game, or say whatever. Let's do something else. Let's start with something I've never started with before. Spin it positive. Man, I haven't started with leg extensions before. Let's change it up. Take it as a sign that it's just your time. Your time to do something else. And it's obviously easy to say. Like, that's a cool thing to say. To actually think it, like, let's say you're amped. You're gonna hit arms, or you're gonna hit chest. The gym is totally packed. Let's multiply the situation. You're dieting. You're really dieting. Like, you're feeling it. You're locked in, legit. You just want to get in, get out, get some food in your system, go to bed. I've been there. And then you get hit with something. You get hit with this. The whole place is packed, or just whatever. And then you're just like, you're now in a situation, right? In your mind, you're now set up with 2 paths. Do I say, why the hell are all these people on the equipment? Or you just say, all right, I can handle this. I'm not 3 years old. I can handle it if there's people in here, and I can work around it. I wanted things to be perfect, but the fact that they're not is, it's whatever. So as much as that seems like a kind of a trivial thing to think, and a lot of people don't think that way. Like, if you've ever seen a video where someone's recording a set, someone walks in front of the camera, like, this is more of a social media situation, and then the guy's like, or there's a clip where a bunch of kids are laughing and a guy's doing hack squats, and he's like, not around me, bro. Not around me, bro. We're getting serious. Like, just they're really acting as though it's their world and we're all just living in it, as though this isn't all just like the craziest group experience ever, and we're all kind of in the same boat. So I think there's a little bit of detachment involved, right? But all I'm trying to say there is, if you want to use the pull down and the pull down is taken, don't throw a fit. Just move on. And you're going to have a better lift because of it. You're going to have a better lift because 99% or a larger percent of the time in the gym, you're going to think, all right, pull down's taken. Let's do a row. Let's do weighted pull, or let's do assisted pull-ups. Haven't done that for a while. Instead of, this guy, or like you just sit and hover. Like, I've seen that before. Kind of a grumpier looking dude, or whatever, any age. Hey man, how many sets you got left? Oh, I got 3 left, dude. You want to work in? Nah. And then the guy sits and he's just staring at the dude. Not cool. I don't remember the last time I got hit with that. It's happened before. And it's like, well, I'm not going to speed up my reps just because you're watching. I offered to let you work in. You don't want to. It's like, what are we doing here? But yeah, don't forget, it's a shared experience, it's a shared space, it's a shared journey, so just try to have as much fun as possible while you can. At least, if shit's really not going your way, you can throw a little fit. Sometimes you can throw a little fit, but at least at least try not to. I guess that's what I'm really getting at. But no, that was a good lift. That was a dense lift too. Those leg extensions, that was something I kind of hated on when I initially saw it, when guys would do the leg extensions where they put the seat pad all the way back and like they're almost laying down. When I first saw that, I thought it was a little like come on, just do it normal. But it does feel pretty good. It's a little different. It's not I'm not saying it's like 100% better, but it is different. And usually different is what I'm aiming for. You know, I don't want to do the same lift every time. I don't want to do every movement the same way every time. So it's good to change it up like that. But yeah, plan for tomorrow with chest. Yeah, plan for tomorrow with chest. I'm not totally sure where I want to go, because I do like changing it up, but I feel like I haven't. I don't know. There's a couple gyms closer to Columbus in the city, or a little bit further, kind of on the outskirts of where I live. And it's worth it to make a drive to a badass gym. You know, if you've got a super cool gym, you know everybody there is serious and they're all solid, and it's 45 minutes away, and like maybe you know a guy there, well, I'd say check it out every so often, you know, because those are the things you're going to remember. As much as it's cool to build a little bit of a community for the same gym you go to every time and you're a regular, I don't know. Maybe it's just a me thing, and I like the variability of this gym and this gym and this gym and this place and wherever. But yeah, for me, it's just a bit more fun to really change it up. Yeah, I guess to the point where I even took it into my own hands to change it up by getting that kind of little private rental space. But yeah, that'll eventually evolve. So I'm not gonna. Eventually, I'll move somewhere. You know, I don't know where, but I'm gonna stay around here for quite a while, and I'll probably. I don't know. I'm not sure what I want to do with that stuff. Open a gym. Call it Sam's Club. That's not a thing yet. There's no Sam's Club out there, is there? Just call it that. Get a little extra cardio. Get a little something or other. Make it a hole-in-the-wall place. That'd be cool. We'll see. Far into the future. I've got bigger fish to fry that are right in front of me than the bigger ones way down the line. But something to think about. That'd be cool. But yeah, I think that's all I got. Now I'm just getting into a little bit of a ramble. I'm gonna get a couple videos of the cats to post for tomorrow, and so instead of a car talk, might do a little bit of a cat talk. I guess we'll see. But that's gonna be for tomorrow. So today's leg day is done, and I'm gonna feel that in the morning. Probably to the point where I might just have to do cardio on the treadmill instead of the bike, because the bike's a little bit quad heavy. Like if your quads are really sore, the bike might not help. You might be better off just doing more of a brisk incline walk. But same thing, that's a tomorrow problem. So I'll see you then.